All right, Aziz. So now we are doing deep news. And so let's just, for the audience sake, you have done a paper session in advance. You're going to go through that. And you have no idea what the target is that right?
Correct. No idea.
Okay, so why don't you just lead us through the session. What did you find out? And then we will tell you what the target reveal is. We'll tell you what the target is after you finish presenting what this session is.
Sure, great. So the general environment, starting off, I was just seeing an indoor area, artificial lighting, and a couple of subjects. I saw 4 at first, just sort of multiple subjects, basically. They seem to have darker hues attire on, multiple objects there. Just probing for other stuff. There was water, but not in the structure, just distant water elsewhere in the environment. I was also just basically seeing that there was a seated subject with an interesting face. Seemed like an older male subject, maybe a little bit of facial hair, not sure. But yes, that's basically, as I moved on to my flash sketch, the next page, I was basically seeing a multitude of subjects just standing around a seated subject who seemed to be at a desk or an object of some sorts. And that seated subject, once again, having a little bit of facial hair, maybe. But then as I started moving towards the center of the target, for the first focus 1, I started seeing a target subject, which I labeled subject A. This subject did not have facial hair. This subject was in sort of rough, sort of had a rough texture, but not really like beardy or something like that. Just, I didn't see any facial hair. But the formal attire seemed like it was relatively formal attire. I mean, it seemed like there was just sort of a lighter hue to the skin and the hair, and just a second. Yeah, so it seemed like the hair was darker. Sorry, that darker hair, and it seemed like it was looks like it was, but it makes, as I was probing the hair, it started to have a little bit of a lighter hue. So at first it was darker, then it seemed to be a little lighter. But then I started doing some deep mind probes. So as I started moving into a deep mind probe,
and you started to call this subject A.
Yeah, subject A. As I started doing a deep mind probe of subject A, I felt that he was nervous, but subject A's awareness was outwardly quite calm. It felt like the outward appearance was trying to be more stoic and calm, but back on the inside, very nervous. I got this sense of like a curve, and the nervous energy was like all huddled towards this back curve of the mind, and just that crowded, cuddled corner of his awareness just was really... he was really noticing this void where all of his energy was crowded into a corner, and he was feeling that nervous energy. It was an interesting perception, just seeing that visual there, just sort of like looking at an emotion, but seeing it visualize itself as this colored energy crowded into a corner, and the rest of the mind just being this open space, and that translating to nervousness, and it mentally felt kind of cold and full of anxiety. It kind of, metaphorically speaking, kind of felt like subject A was noticing the floor crumbling away beneath him, and that was sort of just a mental perception. In fact, I kept doing the deep mind probe and started to feel like he was in conflict. So subject A feels like he's in a conflict of some sort, and he's unsure of the outcome and what is happening on the other side, which is competing with him, and it's like he doesn't know what they're up to on the other side. And it feels like I felt like the word opponent was too strong of a word, but it feels like the other side was too far away, was not too far, but it was just far away, geographically speaking. And that other side was like if there was a tall tower, subject A was at the top of that tower, there's another tower, and it's not as tall, and subject B is at the top of that tower. And
so this other person that you started focusing on is subject B. So you have subject A that you started with, and then you moved on to this new subject B.
Yeah, and I kind of got the sensation of like sort of like a... And I use the word violence, but I'm not quite sure if that's too strong of a word. But just like a mixture of conflicting energies sort of just in a poof cloud at the base of these towers. So they're not caught up in this, but it's like subject A and subject B. They're not caught up in this. They're like above on these towers of varying heights. Subject A's tower being markedly taller than subject B's tower. But there's like at the base, seemed like there was some kerfuffle, some sort of like
commotion of some kind.
Commotion's good.
But whatever it is, you labeled it violence. You also suggest an opponent, and you're thinking, even if it's not violence, because you don't have actual violence shown on the picture.
Yeah.
It has the sense that it's disruptive, but it's closer to subject B.
Yes. Yeah.
It's a subject B environment. Subject A is distant from it.
Yeah, subject A was definitely the most distant. Subject A was in a taller tower and further away, and subject B was in a shorter tower, and that violence commotion was at the base of his tower. So yeah.
I see. And you called subject B. You were trying to figure out. You wrote here. It feels sort of wrong, but you're using the word opponent. An opponent is someone you want to control, but also someone you're fighting in a sense as well.
Yeah, some competing element was there. So
okay, so let's go on to your page B.
Page 8.
I'm sorry, page 8.
Yeah, so subject A, I started continuing just the deep mind probe, looking at feelings towards subject B, now that subject B was revealed. But subject A, just originally, I mean, it feels like he's just anxious about not knowing what subject B is doing. It's like he knows subject B is out there. He doesn't know what's going on specifically, and that causes him a lot of angst. He's really anxious about that. And subject B seems like when I probe subject B's mind in a deep mind probe, it feels like metaphorically he's like building something. It's like he's hunched over, not really paying attention to subject A. He's just hunched over and he's building something, maybe metaphorically building something. It seems like subject B is very inwardly focused on this task, and his actions are not thinking about subject A anywhere near as much as subject A is thinking about subject B. I just see subject B is like toiling away at building up this idea, like a concept, and he's not giving any inkling of thought to the concept of subject A. He's just really hyper-focused on his own construction of this thing. Not sure what the thing is, but he's really focused on it. And I go on to the deep mind probe to start seeing that he's like, in this, subject B feels like he's like a mix between this inventor archetype and like a politician. And I want to say it's a little heavier on the inventor side of that archetype, but the politician is mixed in there. Like that, those two archetypes are really intertwined here within subject B's mind. And it's what he's working on, and like he's between an inventor and a politician in that he's working on something that will affect or influence a lot of people. So it's definitely going to have like a domino effect of a big scale of influence, whatever he's working on. However, it isn't about gathering popularity. It's about developing the concept first. And first and foremost, it feels like he knows the masses will come later once it's finished. So he's really just focusing on finishing it and working on this thing. And it did remind me of that quote, if you build it, they will come. Yeah. I don't know if this is from the movie Angels in the Outfield, but that's my guess is what that quote is from that movie. I could be wrong about that. I had some deductions. I deducted like Elon Musk with Neuralink and Sam Altman with OpenAI. I don't know if those have anything to do with the target, but the whole inventor politician thing, those two people came to mind.
Well, the idea of an inventor means he's doing something new.
It's something new. It was something.
It's not
like
something that's always been around, and he's trying to do something that has never been done before. And the idea of a politician is like a politician trying to do something new.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
political inventor element, something there.
Yeah.
So I started probing actually why create this political inventor element in the subject, and it's like I got this mental image, telepathic image of this sort of space over here, and that's where society is right now. And it felt like the invention was more like this gate. It like opens this gate in like the membrane of that cell, and it allows the contents of society to spill out into this new territory, spill out into this new space. And when the doors swing open, which that's the invention is the doors swinging open. when the doors swing open, it exposes something similar to like this massive territory or massive scope where the boundaries are, and it's just like that area is still unknown to society now. It's like opening up a whole new world, and we have like I got the sense that there's like society has speculation for what's on the other side of this, but it's known that this is such a vast new territory that the further out you get, society has no idea. It's just like unknown space. All it is, the only thing you know about it is that it's new, and there's like this gradient of knowledge of what you would expect to be over there, but the further out you go, it's just you got no expectation of what you're going to find. So as the new territory spreads out, it feels like society's awareness or expectations of what is out there, the things that are further out there, it's just more and more unknown. So I even deducted space travel because it just seemed like, of course we know what's in our immediate vision, and you can see the moon that's out in space, but the further out you go, it's the more mysterious and unknown it becomes. So it's I
like your reference to the terms, to the phrase, if you build it, the people will come.
Yeah.
And the idea of doing something new. I'm also intrigued by the idea that subject A, which is your initial focus, is trying to control or work or do something with subject B and is having sort of a frustrated time at it. But
yeah, that's definitely a big element here. Yeah.
Okay, let's keep on going with regard to page 11, which is the last page of your session.
Okay, yeah. So it's I was just probing the subject A and subject B I was probing their connection, and the first deduction I had with it was something along the lines of espionage. It seemed like subject A feels like he is sneakily observing subject B, and it seems like subject A is kind of disgruntled, doesn't like what subject B is doing. Subject A feels like he is disapproving of subject B's actions, then trying to copy or compete at the same level in the same arena as subject A. It just seems like he's not trying to like steal it and do the same thing for himself. He doesn't approve of what he's doing, subject B is doing. And subject A thinks that subject B is doing is dangerous. Subject A seems to be responding to this danger by reaching out metaphorically with these like tentacles of influence, and the tentacles like reach out from a distance to contain or retard the progress that subject B's actions are having. And subject A doesn't feel confident that he can completely stop subject B. It doesn't seem like that's something he feels like he has the means to do. But subject A, he just doesn't feel like he has this all under his control at all. But it just feels like, I don't know, the nature of this competition, the nature of this encroachment of these tentacles, it feels legal. It feels like a legal battle or something like that. It feels legal, like subject A is trying to just, I don't know, like send a lawyer over to, this is a deduction, but like it's like a huge high level thing, but it's like he's trying to send a lawyer over there to bother subject B, and subject B can't be stopped completely by subject A by this manner of interference. But subject A doesn't seem like he's really trying to stop subject B. It's just sort of interfere in subject B's stuff in some way that subject A's fears, well, he's not trying to completely stop, but he's just trying to interfere in some way, and subject A's fears are just not enough to actually stop anything. It's just he's trying to interfere, reaching out with these tentacles, trying to sort of slow down, stop, interfere in some way with subject B, but he knows it's not going to work. He can't stop him. It's just, but he's not stopping his attempts to interfere in that sense. So, yeah. He's
okay,
afraid.
That's the end of your session then.
Yeah.
Is that right?
That's everything. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's interesting. So, are you ready to hear the target?
Yeah, very much so.
And again, for everybody, you don't know the target. You don't know anything.
I don't know the target.
Okay, so on your computer, you can click on the target for deep news.
Okay, so Russia.
So last month we did Chinese influence of the American 2024 elections. This month we did Russian. So the target is a senior operative, which you called subject A, working for Russia, who will be successful at interfering with the outcome of the elections in the United States through any means and in any way in 2024.
Interesting.
Yeah, and the focus was, what is subject A or the senior operative doing? And it's interesting. So there's so much attention in the media given to computer hacking, as if that's the only way to influence the elections, to get into the voting machines. But the reality is, if somebody in an intelligence service in either Russia or China, they're going to look at a democracy as big as America as having so many different attack vectors, and there are so many protections now built in to protect the actual vote. It seems like they're going to be interested in doing they don't want to put all their eggs in one basket. So now it looks like they're doing other things. And in subject A, in this case, seems to be
quite afraid of whatever's cooking.
I would think, based on your session, subject B is either Donald Trump or Robert F. Kennedy Jr., because he's trying to, according to your session, invent something new.
Interesting.
So I don't see Biden as being someone who's trying to invent something new. He's trying to have the continuation of his first term projected into a second term, but that's not inventing something new. But so it looks like this effort on the part of Russia, which is a senior operative, he's trying to control and influence in some way either Trump or RFK Jr.
Well,
that's how I'm reading this.
Yeah, well, let's just say, in the most general terms, subject B is some sort of American something.
He's a politician of some type.
Yeah, some American individual. And the inventor politician archetype sort of makes sense in the sense that he's inventor making something new, politician. It's going to affect a whole bunch of people. And, if you build it, they will come. If he builds a new system, there's going to be an audience for it. So it's whatever it is, subject A, I guess, is nervous about what it is, and he doesn't know what it's going to be. He doesn't really, it's just out of the anxiety and fear of what it is. He's sending sort of, I guess I said lawyers or tentacles metaphorically, sending sort of stuff out from a distance to try to interfere, but not stop it. He knows he can't stop it, whatever it is. So
yeah, subject A seems to be worried.
He's worried about this new
subject
thing.
B.
Yeah.
And again, I don't see this as a Biden thing. It really looks more like a Trump thing or a Kennedy thing.
Well,
yeah, go ahead.
Well, no, it's whatever it is, it's a new thing, and it's whatever we're seeing out there, anything that's new. I guess it's sort of subject A could, it's just to simplify, subject A could be having this symptom of being worried about meeting a devil that he doesn't know, but he's definitely, he knows that this is not the devil he knows.
Yeah.
So it's maybe that's the reason for the interference, is to try to not stop it because he knows he can't stop it, whatever it is, the creation of this thing, but just trying to put his tentacles into it in some way to, I guess, and one way is just to learn more about it, because clearly he has a lot of anxiety, he doesn't know about it from the session. And then number two, maybe interfere with it enough to be, hopefully it's favorable to him, not as scary.
Yeah.
If it's something he doesn't know anything about, I can understand why he'd be scared of it.
It's very interesting. But it does clearly, what I'm really picking up that's interesting about this is the idea of interfering with the American elections is not limited to simply computer hacking.
Yeah, it seems like this is the second influencer deep news that we've looked into, and it seems like the idea of computer hacking is relatively minor tool. I mean, I'm not saying a minor tool as in like that it's not done.
It's one dimension.
It's one dimension. To think that that's the only way that this type of thing happens is silly. I mean, it's one side of a multi-sided die when it comes to two nations, I guess,
Yeah.
interacting with each other.
I mean, I'm sure computers are involved in a modern day world.
Yeah, of course.
Creating the commotion surrounding subject B, I'm sure, is involved with computer stuff.
Yeah.
That commotion actually could be social media influencing, getting sort of stories passed through various social media. They did that in the past with the 2020 election, and they may have done it with the 2016 election as well. So, I'm sure computers are involved, but because subject A you have is distant from subject B.
Yeah, there's a distance between them.
So there's got to be some type of computer usage, but that's not the focus here. It's not like going in, hacking, changing the vote.
Yeah.
That's not what you're picking up.
There's definitely a social human-to-human component here.
Yeah, interesting, fascinating.
And it also is interesting, now that I know this is a political thing between the two nations, it's interesting that there is this cloud of violence that is in the American neck of the woods with subject B.
Mm-hmm.
I mentioned a cloud of violence that was very close to the American side of things. And the American side of things was the shorter tower as well. So it was...
How do you interpret that?
It's constantly we hear stuff about America being this empire in decline and stuff like that, and I can't see anything that goes against that. I look at the way that our monetary everything, not just the state of the dollar, but I'm talking about the attitudes towards new types of the cryptocurrency stuff, the way that our country is, or the American country is sort of very much. The SEC is very draconian in their rules and regulations against that. I mean, it really blocks a whole bunch of Americans from a whole list of stuff that is used in that space, and just a regulatory nightmare for anybody who wants to have a free economy. But it's on top of that, just the way the housing prices are, the way that the stock market's artificially pumped up. I mean, it's the rampant money printing and everything. We constantly hear, at least I constantly heard, that America out economically performed the Soviet Union. I constantly heard that when I was a kid growing up, learning about history. And looking at the American economy right now, everyone who says that our economy is super strong seems to just be lying through their teeth and talking about corrupt money printing as the only way that is true. So I'm pretty terrified for the future of America as well. So
the last time we had a balanced budget here where the economy was sort of in order was Bill Clinton's presidency, and since then, since year 2000 and onwards, it's been just one struggle after the other. And
it's weird also because it's the I don't know, I remember just in our personal lives, I sent you that article about the Bank of America CEO guy. He was talking quite skeptically about the strength of the U.S. dollar going forward, bank closures and stuff like that. I mean, I don't know if there's going to be some super terrifying bank run or anything like that. Plus, we have this whole cryptocurrency thing that a lot of the countries might be trying to, I guess, sidestep this whole fall of fiat currency issue with central bank digital currencies. I don't know what the future of that's going to be, but it does seem like we're having significant and growing elements of the United States entity, the entity known as the United States. A significant and growing amount of that is looking to be hollow, like a hollow structure, and it's being hollowed out more and more, and I don't like that, but it's that makes me parallel that with this sort of these two towers, and probing into subject A's mind and subject A's mind perspective of these two towers. He obviously saw the structure of his tower, being the Russian side of things, as a taller tower than whatever the fundamental meat of the structure of the subject B's tower, the American tower being there.
Yeah, so. The American tower is, Americans are facing really serious challenges of a type that we haven't faced in almost 100 years.
Yeah, it seems like a real weird enemy because it seems really corruption based and fraudulent economic corruption based, and I don't know how to, there's not a single word I can use to describe it.
Yeah,
This
because
military
it's
industrial complex.
multidimensional. It's not just economic. It's also the severe polarization
forever
of
wars,
and the dysfunctionality of the government, the weaponization of the judicial system on both sides. You get the idea that there's a chaos, and that's what you're sort of picking up here with that chaos around the tower of subject B that you had in your session.
Yeah, the American Tower.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, it may suggest that subject A is involved with increasing that level of chaos.
Maybe. I mean, well, it's interesting if you just think of, because that image of the two towers and one tower, the shorter tower having that violence cloud at the base of it, if you think of just the idea of having civil disruption as a weakening factor, clearly, I mean, with whatever problems people see with Russia, I don't see Russia having that level of civil disruption, civil hate towards the government that America has right now.
Yeah, they don't seem to be coming apart at the seams.
Yeah, there's a lot of, I mean, I constantly see, like, every single day I just get a huge dose of, like, America is going through horrible times, chaos is impending, all this type of, it's every day on the internet, whether I'm on YouTube or Rumble or anything. I mean, it's just constantly just this huge, like, cell phone, social media blast of just the country's coming apart type of stuff. And I don't know, I don't live in Russia. I don't know what that side of the internet is, because every time you go to a different country and you can...
Well, they have their levels of control.
Yeah, you have different things. So I don't know what's hitting them in the social media world, but apparently from Subject A's perspective, it's worse in America. So
well, the chaos is currently very visible here in America, and apparently Subject A is involved, if I'm reading your session correctly, Subject A is involved in worsening that chaos.
Or interfering in some way with whatever's going on. Interfering in
some way.
Yeah. Okay,
yeah.
Well...
All right, well, that was a great session, son, and on to the next one.
On to the next one. Yeah, thanks.